Today we're talking all about DJI's Osmo Pocket 3. Now I have brought this camera everywhere with me for the last month. It has replaced my GoPro as my everyday camera, and it's because this is a small 1-inch sensored camera on a gimbal that can fit in your pocket shooting 10-bit video in D-Log-M. I wanted a long time of real-world use to figure out what I liked, what I didn't like. Since DJI came out with the Osmo Pocket 3, there's a brand new firmware update. If you haven't downloaded it, make sure. We are filming this at the end of November here in 2023. Originally, DJI only lets you shoot in D-Log-M in 10-bit up to 60 frames per second. Now, you could shoot in D-Log-M 10-bit up to 4K 120 frames per second, where it was restricted to 8-bit only in the color mode before, so I wasn't really using it too much, but now that we have 10-bit in 4K 120, and in D-Log-M, in addition to 10-bit in 120, you also get 10-bit in the standard color profile. So if you don't want to do a lot of color correction, but you maybe need to change some minor exposure things here or there, some minor grades here or there, you can now in the normal colored in mode. DJI also added a new audio feature when it comes to the internal microphones. So if you're recording in 4K up to 60 frames or not in the slow motion 10-bit mode, you can actually get a backup recording of the internal microphones, even if you have an external microphone plugged in, just so you can have that backup emergency recording for whatever something happened to your audio and it just didn't capture it. You will now have that backup here on the camera. Maybe you lost audio transmission, the camera happened to be close enough to you to where this backup recording will have clean enough audio so you can still use that video and not have to shoot it over again or just throw it out altogether. With all that being said, what's the best way to review this camera than do it vlog style, how I'm using this camera most of the time? So let's get out to Fort Lauderdale Beach and we'll talk about it more.
Now it's got a 1-inch sensor as I discussed earlier. It can shoot up to 4K 120 frames per second if you need that crazy slow motion. We're shooting in 10-bit D-Log right now, however in 24p, as that's kind of where I live most of the time. Some of the other features is the Osmo has a really big 2-inch screen built in that you could flip sideways, or you can actually use it vertically. And the cool part about this screen is I can use it and really judge if my exposure's on point or not, where in the older Osmo, the screen was so small, it was really just to know if I was even on camera. Where this, there's a lot more you could do with it. The camera works with many different audio adapters via its USB-C. I am using a third-party wireless audio source. I have the microphone right here, and I actually have the receiver packed up behind the Osmo Pocket, and it's using a USB connection in order to go to the Osmo, which is great because I don't have to bring another auxiliary cord. It's pretty compact on the Osmo. Now, one negative about going that route versus using the DJI Mic 2 that comes with the Creator combo, I do have this extra piece. So when I'm holding the Osmo, I have to hold it in mind with the receiver on the back, and that's gonna be with any receiver you use no matter what. Because I'm using the same full aim system with my Osmo Pocket as I do with my cameras. For those of you who want to shoot at night, there is a nighttime video mode. What it does, it gives you much smoother video at night, but it also gives you an extended ISO range. So if you're shooting in extreme low light and you want to be able to get the smoothest video possible, then make sure you choose the nighttime video mode.
So one thing I haven't discussed yet is the internal microphone. Now, obviously, I am on a very busy intersection at rush hour here in the morning, so it's gonna be really loud. As you can see, it's not too bad if you're holding the Osmo to do vlogging pretty close to your face. This is a lot easier. I can get going. I can actually hold the Osmo in my hand, and so I don't have to worry about holding the wireless receiver. But that's one of the benefits to having the DJI 2 mic. You can hold the Osmo like this and not have to actually have a receiver getting in your way. So let's talk about the 3 normal gimbal modes that the Osmo Pocket 3 has. It has the normal follow mode, which is what I'm using now, which is when you look up, it will go up. When you look down, it'll go down. It follows the actual movement of the camera, but it keeps it in a nice steady position, so it looks very smooth, very cinematic. And then of course there's tilt lock. Everything is just nice and straight and it's not moving up and down. The tilt lock is perfect for that. And then here's the last mode that I don't use too often, and it's the FPV mode. Now this is kind of like the follow mode, but it follows every single direction, including the roll. So if I want to start rolling the camera like this, it's gonna start rolling and it's going to show in the video. Now it does keep it nice and smooth. For the Osmo Pocket 3 does have some smart modes. The biggest one that I use all the time is the face tracking mode, because I could just go pretty much anywhere and do anything, and this thing is always going to be tracking my face. And so when I'm doing something like biking, I can worry about the biking and not have to worry about my framing. Now, there are two other modes you can use. One of them is called dynamic framing, which is where you can get yourself in a specific part of the frame and make sure that the Osmo keeps you in that part of the frame tracking as you move. So if you want to be left adjusted, you want to be right adjusted, you can make sure that you are that adjustment in frame. So spin shot is more of a creative mode, and that's the third mode that DJI offers. And it lets you start off at a certain spot, get to your beginning point, and then it basically spins around and ends on that position.
Now there's one video mode that I used to use a lot with the original Osmo, motion time-lapse mode. Now the Osmo Pocket 3 offers time lapses in addition to motion time lapses. Now let's talk about the Wi-Fi app for a second. So the Osmo Pocket 3 has Wi-Fi built in to the actual device itself. So it makes it really easy to use your phone if you want to control the Osmo, especially if you want to do it remotely, and you're not going to be able to closely change all of the features or settings of the camera. The other thing that this Wi-Fi app lets you do is it actually lets you live stream directly from the Osmo Wi-Fi to either your phone or another hotspot, and you just set everything up using the actual app itself for the Osmo Pocket. So you use the Mimo app, and you could set up things like live streaming to Facebook, YouTube.
So I want to talk about the low light mode in the Osmo Pocket for a second, because that was the mode that when I saw footage online, I instantly bought the camera. And after using it, I've learned to not quite like it as much, and here's some test footage examples of shooting with it at night where I have the low light mode on and then I have the log mode on. And what I've learned from using the low light mode is, yes, you have an extended ISO range, meaning that if you film in the 10-bit log mode or just whatever the normal 4K modes are, you're going to get up to ISO 6400, where if you shoot in the low light mode, you will get extended ISOs. But if you don't need those extreme high ISOs, you're going to get better image quality, especially if you're not shooting at ISO 6400, by shooting in the 10-bit log mode. It's just sharper, you can color it, there's not as much noise reduction happening. When I look at the footage, I just see everything is so crushed in the low light mode compared to the 10-bit log mode. You can just see the skin tones and everything are so much more crushed. Now let's talk about real world use of the Osmo Pocket 3. I have been using this camera to replace my GoPro and my everyday camera just because it could fit in my pocket. It's on a gimbal, it's got a 1-inch sensor, the image quality is really great. I normally film in 24p anyways, but it's nice that it offers 4K 60, even 4K 120. So it's just been the camera I bring everywhere. It's been pretty easy to use. I pull it out of my pocket, I flick it open. It's a pretty good boot up time, especially when you've booted it up recently. I noticed the boot up time, for instance, right here, you'll notice I turned it off and then I'm gonna go turn it on real quick, and you're not even gonna see the DJI logo pop up. It just goes straight into booting up. So if you've booted it up once, it has a pretty quick boot up time. If you booted it up after not using it for a little bit, it's still a pretty quick boot up time, but I did wanna notate that. When I was in the front of this canoe where I didn't have much space to move around, I had to pull the Osmo Pocket out of my pocket every single time just because I didn't have a lot of room to put stuff down. And this obviously isn't waterproof like the GoPro is, so I didn't want to get water on it anywhere. Whereas in those situations that I took the Osmo Pocket out carefully and booted it up, I would have just taken the GoPro out, started it, and started rolling. But for me, it's such a minor difference in startup time to get going that I prefer the image quality on the Osmo Pocket 3 over using the GoPro. Also, when it comes to the filters, I love the magnetic filter system that the Osmo Pocket 3 uses. It took a little bit of time to get used to just because I would get my fingers all over the front filters, and I still haven't really found a solution to that other than I keep a microfiber cloth with me. You'll notice right here that the Osmo Pocket hasn't closed inside all the way, just because when the filter is on the Osmo Pocket, it can't close all the way in. However, being closed this way, I can still put it into my Osmo Pocket 3 case without any issues. And I do that when I'm using the ND filter a lot, and I don't want to have to take it on and off.
Now you may have noticed I haven't really spoken about any of the resolutions under 4K. And part of the reason is because using this camera, I just don't see the point personally. So I'm not doing any reviews on the 2.7K 1080 modes. The only exception to that would be that in the webcam modes, they're 1080. However, 2.7K 1080, I don't really touch those. Now there is a 3K mode when you want to shoot vertical video with the Osmo. Now the good news is it seems to use the complete height of the sensor, so you are getting the maximum amount of height, but it's not quite the same as being able to rotate the sensor over and actually use a taller piece of the sensor. When it comes to charging the Osmo Pocket, I bought the base model Osmo, so it just comes with a USB cable and the extension on the bottom, but there's nothing else to charge this thing. However, after using fast chargers that I have at my disposal, this thing charges incredibly fast. I mean, we're talking you can pretty much get a full charge in like 30 minutes. On top of that, I've been using these power delivery devices from Anker, and those charge my Osmo incredibly quick, especially because they're 22.5 watts out. Bringing one of those will charge my Osmo 2.5 times, meaning I don't need any other power pack except for that, which has been pretty cool. So after going through this whole video, I think the big question here is, does the Osmo replace a mirrorless camera? And this camera can certainly replace a lot of these cameras for vlogging. But the question is, should you? And I think if you're a videographer, it completely makes no sense not to pick up an Osmo Pocket 3 and have it in your arsenal for whatever situation you may need it in. Whether it's events, weddings, need an extra podcast camera. It's really small, really cheap. As fully replacing a mirrorless camera, I think it's going to depend what you do. If you're just a casual videographer, you do video casually, and you don't really need a mirrorless camera, you don't need interchangeable lenses, you don't need telephoto focal lengths, then yeah, I think you probably could replace a mirrorless camera with the Osmo Pocket. However, if none of those things spoke to you and you need a lot of versatility out of your camera, or you need higher frame rates, raw video, whatever it may be, the Osmo Pocket clearly is not going to be the best choice for that, but it is a really great item to have in your arsenal, a really great piece of kit to have. So I do absolutely recommend it. Now, if you have any questions about the Osmo Pocket 3, I've been doing a lot of content on it. I plan on doing more, so make sure to ask in the comments below. And if you got knowledge and value out of today's video, please make sure to hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell to keep up to date with the latest videos from the channel. Till next time, my name's Geoff. Thank you for watching me, everybody, and I will catch you in the next video.